Well, we all know the importance of engaging our people online. And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to give you 6 types of online content that can expand your reach.
Thanks for joining us again today on Practical Church Planting. Today we're going to be giving you 6 types of online content that can expand your reach.
And before we get into that, I just want to point out something that's relevant to this episode. So it's a good thing it worked out this way.
Yep.
But just to reiterate the importance specifically of YouTube. Now, if you're in the Practical Church Planting Facebook group, last week I posted a poll. Well, last week when we're recording this, so maybe 2 weeks or whatever when you hear it.
Yeah.
I asked a poll saying if you could have one app and you're on a deserted island for entertainment, not for rescue purposes, what would it be? YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, news, podcasts, everything.
Yep.
Unsurprisingly, YouTube won. What was surprising was how dramatic of a fashion it won.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, this is a Christian group.
Yeah.
So that should weigh on this as well. 84% of people said YouTube. I was thinking maybe 50 to 60, given all the options.
Yeah.
Everybody said YouTube.
Interesting.
And it's just worth pointing out, if you do not take YouTube seriously, you are making a terrible decision.
Yeah.
A terrible decision. And so I just want to say this as we get into this episode. Back in July, I recorded episode 234, 8 practical things to dramatically increase your YouTube channel or something like that.
Yep.
Super practical things. That was 4 months ago. We still do all of them now. We might do some of them a little bit better.
Yeah.
Well, we do all of them now. And I just want to give you the data of how important this is. If you haven't listened to that episode, go and listen to it, either after this episode or stop it right now, and to implement it. So keep in mind, 84% of us, Christians, said we wanted YouTube.
We want YouTube.
We started back in May is when we started changing our YouTube channel to make it more optimized. And again, episode 234, it's super easy. One of the things we said in the episode is how, dumb I felt that I waited till I just didn't think about it.
We didn't do it before.
I'm not saying you're going to get these results. This is just all just relative to understand. Again, we're 4.5 years in, so we're not like a brand new church plant. We had 214 subscribers on our YouTube channel on May 1st. As of this recording, November 30th, 2021, we have 389 subscribers.
Which is growth of?
174 subscribers in 7 months.
It's not bad.
We are not a big church.
No.
We are still lower than our pre-COVID Sunday attendance numbers, although that's not the best metric to track anymore in terms of engagement because of various reasons. So I'll just say we're not a big church. And our Sunday morning attendance, it's not like that is massively grown. So what's going on there? Now, I'm not saying if you do all the things that we mentioned on episode 234, you're going to see those results. I don't think you will, just because we've been around for a while. Yeah. And we do a lot of we do more videos than the average church does per week. But we talk about everything we do in that episode. Super practical. I would even encourage you to go to New City RDU on YouTube just to see our page because you can replicate it. It's not complicated. And I also mentioned that after the YouTube poll that you have to take it seriously. And then yesterday, a friend of mine asked if I would go watch one of his sermons. He's not the lead pastor of a church here, but he's one of the pastors on staff. So I go to the YouTube channel, large church, a lot more money. And nowhere on their homepage are their latest sermons. In fact, they don't even have a playlist that says latest sermons. I talked about this because we talked before, and it's not his decision. And he brought it up with the person who runs their channel previously, and their solution was just to put timestamps on their live stream, like in the description of where to click to find the latest sermon.
Yeah.
That is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
You need various ways to do it. We talked about it on episode 234, how we do it. You don't have to do it our way. Even if you just live stream and cut out the sermon. Yeah. Your sermon needs to be on its own thing, the top playlist on your homepage, on your YouTube channel. That is the number one thing people are looking for, even if you're a smaller church. If someone misses it, they want to see it. Of course, we would then say, then you put the sermon only on your website. People don't want to watch the music unless they're listening to it live. They just want the sermon. And to me, again, that communicates, I'm a little passionate about this, that communicates laziness, that you don't take the time to think it's important enough to make sure YouTube's important. Now, again, depending on your church size or whatever, what you want to do, our assumption is if you're listening to this, you want to grow. House church model probably isn't what you're doing, although if you are doing house church model, this still applies. If you want to grow the model and plant more house churches, people are looking for it. It would be this, I honestly think it is the same thing as having a website that was designed in 2003. If your website is designed in 2003, right now, we would all say, that's bad. Yeah. But yet there seems to be this thing of I'm just going to throw stuff online. Everybody's online. You got to engage people differently. So please YouTube is not something like you have to spend the time and the money if necessary to figure out how to do it. It does not have to be perfect. You'll get better as you do it. And again, I'm not saying you're going to grow 174 subscribers in 7 months, but you will grow. And part of this is, although our YouTube channel wasn't optimized, we have been doing it for a while. So there's just some, things, take off, I guess, after a while, just because you have a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about some of the things we do in this episode. All that to say, that has to do with this episode kind of, but I just, from the poll, from the conversation I had, if you do not think this is a big deal, you are missing out. So, anything to add, Brian?
It doesn't. The only thing I'll add is like this doesn't have to be, even if you're not a big tech person, this doesn't need to be a huge drag of a thing to add. Like we'll go through some of the things we do. We've done different things in the past, and what we've kind of landed on is the things that we want to do. Like we've done things that and have ended up not being enjoyable to do, or being kind of more work than they're worth, and we don't do those things because like we don't. I mean, honestly, like this isn't like the main philosophy to go into everything, but we don't want to hate doing the things that we're doing, And so like if you enjoy doing it, it'll probably translate better on camera, and you're not going to hate doing it as much, and it's something. So like it can't everything can't cater to like you, the person, the content creator, but like if you enjoy doing the things that you're planning on doing, you're going to want to do it more. So this doesn't need to be just do things we do, and even if you hate it, do it anyways, and you're going to hate it, and too bad. But find the things that you want to do, the things that you're passionate about and interested in, and you'll actually like doing it because you'll see results from it.
Yep, and you'll get better. So whatever it is, episode 234. We don't get anything from you listening to it. Like we don't. There's not. This is not a you listen. It does not benefit us at all. It's just a plea. If you want to be effective in ministry today, YouTube matters, and you got to start. You'll get better as you go. But if you don't spend any time on it, that is I would say an unwise, maybe even foolish decision. I'm not going to say it's unfaithful, because there's various reasons. It's just I don't understand. It
is a place people if they're newer will go to check you out, and if they can't find you, or if they can't find your sermons, like so to speak, all this other stuff doesn't matter. If someone can't find like what is a Sunday morning even like, and not the worship and everything, but like what's the preaching actually like, they're not going to look at all the other stuff as well. So this will actually help you potentially reach new people as well. So it's not just a getting your name out there to get your name out there kind of thing. This is actually something that can be beneficial to the church.
So episode 234, if you have listened to it and you're not doing some of those things, we just encourage you to do it.
Yeah.
This has been the longest intro ever. We pride ourselves on getting right into it, but it was relevant, and I just have to mention it because it matters so much.
Yep.
So here we go.
Let's get into it.
6 types of online content that can expand your reach. We've talked about some of these things in various episodes, but apparently we had never put them all together at one.
Yep.
So this is not just YouTube related. We're going to share with you things you can do on various online channels, online places where people are, to reach more people, connect with more people. And we do, we've done all of these at some point or another, and do most of them still do it today. So here we go. Number 1 is the sermon clip, which is what we call it. You call it whatever you want. This would require you video record your sermons, which I would argue it should be one of the top priorities in terms of budgetary items. If you don't have, is to get a camera. It doesn't have to be super expensive. It can get better as you go. You don't have to live stream if you're not there, but I think you should record your sermon, because again, YouTube and everything else. So you've got to record the sermon to do that. And this is just one way to repurpose content without having to do something extra. Brian does it now. It's typically the bottom line, the main point of the message toward the end of the sermon. We try to keep it around 90 seconds or less, even if longer would give it more context, just because people don't listen to it especially on Facebook and stuff. Like they're not going to watch a super long video.
Yeah.
But we take it, we cut it down. Brian adds subtitles to it, which I don't know how much work that is, if it's time consuming or not. We didn't always do that, but we've added to it now.
Yep.
I don't know. You can tell me if that's a lot of work.
Sure. Well, so what we do is we find like where the bottom line or our main point of the message is, find about a minute-ish around that to where it will make sense, but also it's short.
Yep.
And we cut it out. And so if you can manually subtitle, which I don't think is worth the time. But you can, if you have someone who knows anything about Adobe Premiere Pro and is willing to learn it, they have a beta program that does automatic subtitling, but you have to apply for it. Which Google all the stuff, and that's just what I did, and I found out how. And so I applied for it, and it said it'll take like 6 weeks or something to get a response, and they approved us in like 24 hours or something like that. And we did nothing to get it. It was just like, what kind of content do you create? And I clicked the buttons and got it. So that was I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. So it could have changed by now. But if you have someone, or if you use that and you don't have that feature, Google how to get it, because it was free, and it's so much more helpful. And like there's typos and stuff. You still have to watch through and edit it, but it's way quicker than trying to just manually type everything out. So, if you have to manual type everything out, and especially if you're a one man show, it might. You can decide if it's worth your time. It might not be, but it's helpful and it's super easy to do.
So again, some of this is like evolved over time for us. You don't have to be where we are. Just start somewhere. Originally, I did it. I took it from the sermon. I just clipped it out in iMovie.
Yeah,
that's all I did.
Which is perfectly fine.
Now it's a little bit better, and Brian makes it look a little bit nicer. But that's where we started. And so if you don't know how to subtitle, you don't just have something. Start from there. I think it's worth if. I personally think it would be worth looking into if you don't have someone to help you with it. So like all of our YouTube stuff is helpful because like I do most of the content and Brian edits all of it and puts it all together. And so it goes well.
Sure.
If you have to do it by yourself, I still think it's worth it. It's not going to be amazing quality, but you'll get better over time. So that's what we do. It's already there. Now, to take it a step further, we post it. We don't post everything on all of our channels, like all of our content, but we do for this and one other thing we'll talk about in a second. The sermon clip we do. So we post it on Facebook, Instagram stories, and Reels, which I'll talk about in a second. This is a little technical today, but hopefully it's helpful.
Hey,
take whatever you can.
Information.
TikTok, and YouTube. Now, Facebook and YouTube, it's what do you call that? Vertical? Horizontal.
Widescreen.
The widescreen, typical camera settings. What we do for
16:9
Instagram and TikTok is we take that same thing and you reformat it to be the dimensions. What's the other dimensions?
So it's what is it? It's 1920 by 1080 is the regular one, right? I always forget which one is whatever. 1920 by 1080. Assume that turns like this. If you have Premiere and can like edit your sequence, all it is 1080 by 1920. You literally flip the two numbers around and it gives you the perfect dimension.
But it's the same thing. Like if you watch Instagram stories or TikTok, it's vertical.
It's vertical. Yeah.
And so what you don't want to do is do a widescreen and put that on your Instagram stories.
Ugly.
That looks weird.
Ugly.
And so because it's it's pretty much a straight shot, we just cut it and you can see it. And sometimes the arm,
zoom in.
like the arm or something might be missing.
Sure.
But like it's fine and it looks way better. And so what we do is we put on TikTok, and again, this is all relative. It doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. We started using TikTok earlier this year, and we post our message clips and our Bible in a minute, which we'll talk about in a second. Like those are the two things we post 2 a week, and it's up to like 280 followers now, which again doesn't matter. And again, TikTok is not necessarily local; it's just another thing, and you already have it. Instagram, again, this is all relative to when you're listening. I like to put them on stories and not as an Instagram post because more people watch stories than posts. I've even found I never scroll down. No. I just look at a couple stories and then get off.
Right.
And the more people that watch your stuff will show up more. So if people are trained, like for us at New City Church, if you watch a lot of New City Church's stuff, even if you follow a lot of people with a lot of stories, they'll prioritize the ones that you watch. Instagram just knows. And so again, subtitles are helpful for this regard because if somebody's listening without sound, they're much more likely to keep listening if they can read it. And so we put it on there. One trick we've done recently is we also put them on Reels. Now this is a little technical. When I post it on Reels, when you post a Reel, you do not have to post it on your Instagram feed. Because what I didn't want to do is post it on our Insta story and our Instagram feed. It just seems like spammy.
Yeah.
You can turn off post on feed so that it only shows up on your Reels. So if you go to New City's Instagram page right now, like our normal picture layout, you won't see it. Now there's an icon to click Reels. So if you click over to Reels just as specifically, you'll see it. But if you happen to be scrolling on Instagram, you wouldn't see a Reel, which is great because again, a Reel isn't necessarily geographic as location, but a lot of people see it. People like it. Some people follow us, which I don't really care about, but it makes it looks a little bit more legitimate. So people in the Raleigh area, when they follow us, are like, oh, people follow this account.
Yeah.
And that's takes no extra work other than, again, rotating the screen. You've already done the subtitles, already done all those things. And again, we put on Facebook, YouTube, the widescreen, Instagram, TikTok, and Instagram Reels, the full screen. And you don't have to create anything extra. And again, Brian does this now. It's a lot quicker once you do it a little while. It doesn't take a ton of time.
It's not bad at all. Yep. It takes a little bit of learning, but once you get it, it's just like muscle memory. It's really quick to do. We do the same thing every week. We kind of change when we post things, but we do the same content every week. We just obviously it's different content, the same format every week, I should say. And so you just get in the habit of doing it, and it's really this is going to seem a lot if you're not doing anything right now. But once you get in the habit of doing it, vetting maybe one thing at a time, it is really not that big a deal.
Yep. And so that's what we do with the sermon clip. We do it every week. Again, you're going to have to record your sermons to do this. I also want to mention with all of these, this is not explosive growth. This is consistency over time. Now, relative on our subscriber count, it's starting to tick up pretty quickly.
Sure.
It's probably not. It's not always going to do that. I don't know where these subscribers are coming from. Well, actually, I do know. We'll tell you that in a second. Well, some of them at least. But consistency over time, people will slowly engage. And it's not just about getting more subscribers. It's just you're staying in front of your people. They feel served. They see the church more. They feel like their church that cares about them, even though it's just like a mass post because they're interacted with you. If they liked it, they might send it to a friend or, you share it or comment or whatever. So it helps your engagement. But the sermon clip, and again, make sure for YouTube and Facebook, it's widescreen. If you do Instagram and TikTok, you don't want to do the widescreen. You're going to need to crop it so that it looks good. And if that's too much, if you're not doing any of this right now, this is not this week. Do all of them.
Sure. Yeah.
Just do Facebook and YouTube, just the widescreen, and start there. Work on getting a clip, like finding how to get a clip pretty quickly, and then you can work on doing the vertical thing, and then you can work on doing subtitles if you want. Just to start somewhere.
Yeah, and the other thing is, other than this first one, all the other ones, you're just talking about like serving the people in your church. This isn't necessarily just about growing a big audience.
Yep.
But every other one is stuff that is not Sunday morning content.
Yes.
Like, we talk about posting the sermon. We talk about doing, it's helpful for people to find your church or if they missed a Sunday or something like that. But yeah, your people in your church aren't obviously going to watch the sermon again. But every other thing that we're about to give, it's additional content. So it's not just spamming and rehashing Sunday in a sense of if you're there on Sunday, then why even bother following us? But it's more content that helps people engage, not just in the church, but engage in their faith throughout the week in ways that they wouldn't really be able to do if you weren't giving them additional resources.
Which is a great point, because when we talk about this stuff matters, it is going to take time.
Yeah.
And I would argue worth your time. And not a ton of time. Like if you just put it on your calendar to do it, it will take less time than you think if you just commit to doing it. And of course, you'll get better at it. You'll get faster.
Yep.
So sermon clip, number one. Number two, we mentioned this in other episodes, is we do what's called a Bible in a minute. In fact, I've heard from some of you that you guys do this as well, which is great.
Nice.
We take 60 seconds because we've tried various things.
Yes.
And so we've been doing this one almost all year.
It's stuck for a while.
This is the longest, the one thing that has stuck, other than the message clip, which we've done for a long time.
Yeah.
I take a Bible verse and I talk about it for 50 seconds to a minute and 10 seconds.
Yep.
And we call it Bible in a minute. One verse, and that's it every week. And it's the same format. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, I stand right here.
Yep.
I just stand up. And we do, with the normal camera, we do the same thing. We record it so that it's the widescreen for Facebook and YouTube. And then Instagram and TikTok, we take that same recording and just, like Brian said, flip it, and it's just more thin on me.
Just vertical.
And again, sometimes my Bible goes out of the screen or hand. It doesn't matter as long as the face is in it. And do the exact same thing we do for the message clip.
Yep.
We put subtitles on it, and then we post it everywhere. Again, not on the same day. It's every week. The day changes every week a little bit, but do the same thing: Facebook and YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Instagram Reels. And again, it's just another thing, takes about a minute, so people are actually going to watch it. Because again, if you do a ton of stuff that takes 20 minutes and all your stuff takes 20 minutes, they're going to see it. They're not going to engage with it. They're not going to watch it. So that's another small thing we do. Bible in a minute. We take a Bible verse, explain it in a minute. And we didn't do that originally. We did a lot of other stuff. And again, as you listen to this, there might be other ideas that you have. We would say try it. It doesn't matter. If you stop doing it in a month, nobody will care.
Yep.
You just find
you don't have to
like.
say you're doing this forever.
But we would argue, I would just say this. We're going to give you some other stuff too. If you can do your sermon every week, that's one thing to put on YouTube. We don't upload the sermon to Facebook. We do the live stream on Facebook, but uploading an entire sermon during the week on Facebook, nobody's going to watch that.
It's pointless.
But we do, but for YouTube purposes, our standalone sermon gets uploaded Mondays. We do a message clip, which is already from the sermon, and a Bible in a minute. Does not take a lot of time. Now, we do more than that, which we'll talk about in a second. But those three things, sermon and message clip, you already have if you do them. And then Bible in a minute takes a minute. It takes 5 minutes to find a verse and write some notes down. I just put it on a sticky note, put the sticky note in the Bible, and talk about it.
Go for it.
And that's three things right there that you can do every week that don't take a ton of extra time.
Yep. And what I like about the way we kind of landed on doing things is, as you'll see, not everything is super short form and not everything is long form. Like there's a good variety, because some things obviously work better on, clearly short things work better on things like Instagram and TikTok, and long things sometimes work better on YouTube. So we're trying to kind of cover all of our bases and not just saying like, we're only going to sit down and do an hours long thing where we explain something in depth. And it's also not just all super quick sound bites. So if you can kind of get a good variety of things as you can grow into it, not necessarily right away, but as you can grow into it, that'll really help you cover your bases and kind of reach everyone's preferences, because everyone has a little different preferences. Like I don't really like the short form things. I don't really use Instagram much. So YouTube, I kind of like a little more because I can put it on in the background as I'm doing things. But other people are the exact opposite. So this way you can kind of cover your bases and kind of try to touch everyone a little bit.
And I'm not a social media expert. They've always said not to post the same thing on multiple accounts, which we don't really do other than that, although this is a couple things a week that we do. But again, the more that Facebook and Instagram throttle things being seen, the less likely people are going to see your thing. So stuff like videos, I think it's totally fine to put it multiple places, because if you're lucky, you'll at least hit them at least once.
Right, yep.
So sermon clip, Bible in a minute, takes about a minute long. If you can think of something else that you want to explain in a minute, that works too. But people, again, they're trained when they see the video, even if they don't read the title or whatever, they know it's going to be about 60 seconds because it's me holding a Bible in front of our fake wooden wall. And they know what to expect. And so that's helpful too. Whatever you decide, I would say be consistent with it time-wise so that people know what to expect. Otherwise, they're not going to sit there and if it's all over the place.
And that's exactly, I mean, not everyone reads the title clearly, obviously, but like that's why we landed on calling it Bible in a Minute. It's not the coolest name in the world. It's just, we're talking about the Bible, and we want people to know it's going to be short. And that's the only reason we landed at. So we call it like Bible in a Minute, whatever we're talking about.
Whatever the verse is.
Whatever the verse is. And that's it. And it's easy to do. It's easy to make. So
there we go. Number 2. Number 3, an online Bible study. Now, we first did this last year during COVID. It's just an extra thing to do, about 15 to 20 minutes. I did the book of James.
And what do you mean by online Bible study?
So it's the book of James. Well, it's whatever book. And this is actually whatever. Well, I'll explain it. It was like not a chapter. I mean, it was like a passage. I don't know, 8 or 9 verses, however it was broken up. And we would do one a week. And it was actually way easier than a sermon, even though, let's say New City normally preach around 30 minutes. A lot of these were around 20 minutes, but it was a lot easier because it was just content. Like I didn't worry about stories. And try to engage people. It's like, if you're watching this, you probably want to learn about James. And so we were doing it for a while, really because other things we watch or listen to, they're like, churches don't do a lot of stuff like this. Now, part of it is when people say churches don't do X, it's just because a lot of churches are small, so they don't have the reach. So it doesn't mean that churches don't do it. It's just
the churches you see don't do
it. If you YouTube it or Google it, you're not going to find a church with 150 people. But anyway, we're like, well, let's start doing it. That's a good idea. And so I started doing it, and like, I don't know how long James went, but it wasn't getting a ton of views, which I didn't expect to get a ton, but it was like, this is kind of whatever. So we ended up like, whatever. We did it. We did most of it. Then this is like when we started the Bible in a minute. So then I tried to do like a couple of them, like within a minute, and then we just didn't finish James. We did most of James. I think maybe the last chapter we didn't get to.
Is it a Bible study?
Yeah.
I didn't know we didn't finish it. Did we really not? Oh,
we finished like we ended up getting to like 90% of it, but I was like, people aren't really watching this, so whatever. I'm not going to keep doing it. Well,
it's funny knowing what ended up happening.
Earlier this year, trying to figure out YouTube stuff. I think it was around May when I was doing all this stuff. I look at our views and I notice that some of our James Bible studies were our most viewed things. Like not all of them, but like over 1,000 views, which again for us, our small channel, 200-ish people, that's a lot. Like, I don't know how it happens. A couple people get it. YouTube just throws in the algorithm. I think what I've discovered now, and from some comments that people leave on our YouTube channel, I think it's like preachers or Bible study leaders that are trying to learn about a passage. They just Google James whatever, and it shows up. Once it shows up for some people, they show it to other people. And we were like, oh, this is really good. So we decided to do Colossians early this year. Same thing, same format, doing it, and nothing big for a while. And then lo and behold, some of them have taken off, and some of them, at least of this recording, are over 1,000 views. Now, some of them are 50 to 100, but a couple of them are between 400 and 600, and a couple of them are over 1,000. So some of them hit, and they took off. And this is, I think, partially of where our subscribers have come from. It's just, they're seeing all these Bible studies. And then, and now Brian's doing one right now, about to be finished in 1 John. It's the same thing, not getting a lot of views, but just waiting for one of them to hit. And then when one of them hits, So the Bible studies, they are for our people, but they're also, to be honest, for YouTube to try to engage more people. And that has really worked. Now, again, this thing took 15 to 20 minutes. Brian's finishing up one right now. We're not going to go right into another one right away, but we probably will do another one next year at some point.
Next year,
just knowing it's going to be slow and consistent. Maybe none of them will hit, but some of them might. And it's just a single shot. We don't do anything with Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. For the online Bible study, it's just YouTube. We post it the same day every day, or say it's like Thursday, same day every week.
Same day every week.
And that's all it is. In fact, I looked it up before we started. Our top 8 most viewed videos are all Bible studies.
Yeah.
And I kind of stopped after that. Like the majority of our top 20 are Bible studies.
Yeah, 100%.
Like most of them.
Yep.
You know, we might have a random fun video we did, like a dad joke battle or something like that.
Yeah.
Get in there, or maybe a sermon that people have studied and the passage was popular.
Had a keyword in it or something.
But that's it. And so that's something you could do. Again, you don't have to do all these things next week, but it doesn't, especially if you preach a lot, it doesn't take you a lot of time. It's just literally, at least for me, I'm just like, I could tell you what the Bible says if I don't have to make it engaging. And of course, you don't want to be boring, but like read a verse, explain it. Read a verse, explain it. Do it for 20 minutes, and then you're done. Single shot. We don't put subtitles on those.
Nope.
We just upload them. Now, again, if you want tips for uploading to help you engage more people, episode 234. We tell you what to do, descriptions, thumbnails, how to do it. You can look at ours. Again, you don't have to replicate ours because we've been doing it for a while, but it's still accessible to a beginner trying to YouTube channel. But online Bible study is a way. We only do it on YouTube, but it has clearly made a difference for us.
Yeah, and it is an easy thing to do. Like and I don't know if this is the case with James. Do you remember why you picked James? Why we did that one first?
It just seemed like it wasn't super long. And
okay, yeah. So like Colossians, I know we did. It was like not super long after we preached through Colossians.
Yeah.
So it's probably a lot of the
that's true. Yeah, you're right. So now Colossians, we did, I think, almost all of it. We did all of it when we were closed in-person gathering. So I was like, how many people were watching this? And also, it's a Bible study, and we know a lot of our people go back and like watch the Bible studies. Although we do our newsletter every Thursday, and so I always include at the bottom of it the latest one, so people can know that we're doing some stuff. But it was basically Colossians, not too long after, but it was just more in depth. Took the stories out, shared a little bit more information. And that took even less time than James because I wasn't studying from scratch. I think I tried like the first 2 and I was like, what am I doing? Let me just use my notes that I have.
Exactly.
Add a few things, maybe wait 3 to 6 months, but people don't remember what you're preaching on. And again, for this, it's not just for your church, it's for anybody on YouTube.
Yep. And so like that this is an easy way to do it, especially if you've already launched and have existed for some period of time. Go back to the beginning of time of you preaching and what were some earlier, and probably it's good to start off with shorter if you want to go through the whole book. Some shorter books that you've preached through that you can maybe just need a little refresher, but you're not gonna spend this huge amount of time prepping for it because, like you said, you don't need stories for it. You're just explaining what's going on, maybe giving like a main idea or something like that at the end. And that's it. And so like when I was doing 1 John, and we hadn't preached through 1 John, but I kind of put together a little like Bible study for the staff, which is the only reason I chose it to do for this because we had just finished that. So I was like, I have it right here. It's as someone who takes a lot more time to prep for a message because I don't preach as often, so it's I haven't worked that muscle as much as Dylan, obviously. So like a message takes longer for me to prep. It's still, I don't know, 45 minutes maybe to prep a 20-minute video. Like they're easy to do, and it's especially if it's not something that's insanely complicated. Which if you're just starting off doing this, it probably shouldn't choose the most complicated thing because maybe choose something that's easier to describe for yourself and easier to work through. And so it's a great place to start, and it's an easy place to start. And for me, I don't know about for you, but I don't know. To me, it was fun to do.
And I'm going to say this. We have other episodes. I'm big on productivity and focus. So we have episodes on that. This would take you in total 90 minutes a week. 45 minutes. Yeah. I mean, 45 minutes to study, 60 minutes to study. You don't need to do a ton. You could use one commentary or 2. And just, put some stuff together. 20 minutes to record it. Maybe 2. Let's say 2 hours. Put it into your computer. Don't add subtitles. It's a single shot. We don't do multiple. It's like nothing happening. If you mess up, nobody cares. Like you don't have to fix it. You can just keep going and upload it. That's 2 hours. It is worth. I mean, you have to. It's not just a problem for pastors. It's a problem for everybody with social media use, being reactive, email. Like people just are not proactive with their schedule. Put on your calendar every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Bible study. If you want to do a series like this, you can do it. It's not. The problem is not lack of time. Unless you're bivocational, the problem is lack of focus or understanding how important this is. So, and I would, like Brian said, we would encourage you to do something short because if you do like a long book like Exodus, you will get discouraged at your view count. Like I'm just telling you, especially if you've got less than 100 subscribers, it's not about today. Just you'll get better at it. You'll do more. Do something that'll take you 8 videos or less. And just have it. And
especially as a way to see if you like it. Like because if you hate it, you'd hate to be like in the middle of it and have to quit or whatever. But see if you like it. Do something shorter, and like what we've done is get like a batch from and get an afternoon and bang out 5 weeks in a row or 4 weeks in a row or something like that.
Yeah, that's what we would do. We would. I don't. Well, Brian did his by himself, but when I did it, I would do 2 or 3 at a time.
Yeah,
and we take an hour and 15 minutes, do 3, and you're done for 3 weeks.
And you're done, and you can like do that over a couple weeks, and then you've recorded potentially a couple months worth of content in a couple weeks, and then you can just work on posting them, and you don't got to worry about it until whenever you want to do the next one.
Well, it was funny. So again, we stopped doing James because I was like, this is nobody's watching this, right? And then I would also post them on my personal site, DylanDawson.com. I also like put them on there, and I actually got an email through there, someone asking me why we like where was the rest of James? I was like, wow,
that was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah, who knows? Who knew?
So if you're out there, we've got more. Come back to our YouTube channel. So, that's a lot. Online Bible study is another thing you could do.
Yep.
Another thing you could do, we did this, number 4, we did this a little bit, we don't do it right now, is you could do like a 5-minute spiel-ish on a Bible character or a Christian topic. So, major characters in the Bible, like John the Baptist or Samson or whatever, you can talk about that. Or theological words may not be as interesting, but who knows? I mean, it's YouTube. Anything could hit.
Yeah.
What is transubstantiation, or what is justification, or anything. Or you could do something from church history, like an informative. Again, you want to keep it about the same time. You don't have to tell people everything that you learn. Yeah. And we would recommend doing somewhat consistent of this. Now, try it. If it doesn't work, you can stop. But you don't. I wouldn't say do Bible in a minute 1 week, and then a Christian, Bible character 1 week, and then a Christian history. Like that's just, and it'll take you a lot of time to switch for all these things. But you could do. We did this a little bit, and would do other things. But if that's something that really interests you, like history, like that would be cool. 5 minutes or less, something significant in church history. Yeah. Or a Bible character or something like that people don't really understand, or like a story in the Bible that people misunderstand, like I don't know, Jesus calming the storm, like what's actually going on there, or whatever. Sure. Yeah. Like something that's about 5 minutes long that's interesting that you could do consistently. And again, you could batch these out, record multiple at a time. You're not going to get a ton of views, but consistency over time is what we're going for here. That's another thing you could try to do.
Yep, and if you're trying to do something like this, again, it's just pick something that's interesting to you. If you hate church history, don't pick church history. Like it's clear, if you're excited to do it, it'll translate, and it won't be as much of a drag for you. So figure out if something like this interests you, figure out something that interests you, and figure out if like I really want to help clarify some. What's the word I'm looking for? Like misunderstandings from the Bible, or common misconceptions from the Bible, or something like that. And that I get excited about. Well, then do a handful of those and see how they go, and see if you like it. But you don't have to just necessarily pick like, what do I think people would be most interested in? And I really don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to because it might get me some views. But pick what you're excited about, do it, and do it for an extended period of time, and see if you like doing it.
Yeah, and so we would say too, videos of any length, they're all good on YouTube. 5 minutes. I wouldn't do anything over 5 minutes on Facebook. So if you do this, you could do YouTube and Facebook. Anything over 90 seconds, I would not put on Instagram or TikTok. I know you can, but so for the online Bible study, obviously, but the Bible characters or the Christian topics that we're talking about here, again, wide shot. If it's around 5 minutes, you could put it on Facebook and YouTube if you want, or YouTube and Facebook if you want. And I wouldn't do a story or TikTok of it. I know sometimes you can get away with it, but if you get like a million of those little white bars at the top, people aren't watching it. Yeah. And the reason why we kept doing Bible in a minute is because when I posted them on the stories, you can tell how many people are watching it. And most people watch all of it.
Finish it.
Now, some people, because you can swipe after the first one. Yeah. So there's always a little bit of a drop off between the first and the second story. But then they get to the end. Now, granted, they could have just let their phone play, but I doubt it. The chances of you going to 4 or 5 stories. Now, I think the fact that we put subtitles definitely helps. It keeps people engaged because we all know what it's like to be scrolling and like you just start reading the subtitles and it's like, I'm already halfway done. That's why the shortness, like the Bible in a Minute Measures clip really help because it's short. It's like, I'm already here, might as well. But I wouldn't put like the Bible characters on Instagram or TikTok. If it's over 90 seconds, I wouldn't do it on there. So for this one, you could do Facebook and YouTube.
I think I remember hearing, I can't remember the exact stat, but it was something along the lines of like the ideal YouTube video is 15 to 20 minutes maybe, or maybe it's 12 to 17, something like that. In my mind, if you go shorter than that, it's fine. Like I don't think anyone's going to ignore a YouTube video for being too short if it's something that they're interested in. Longer than that, I think could be an issue. If you're outside of like a sermon, which obviously is kind of the point, but if you're doing some of these and you're like, I just want to talk for an hour, it probably isn't going to be the best. But if you're on YouTube, if you can keep it kind of maybe 20 minutes or so or shorter, I think you'll be good. But TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, I don't know. I like to keep them to a minute when I make them, at least. I like to keep them to a minute tops, but minute and a half I think is definitely
the platform matters. Instagram and TikTok, people are not expecting to watch something really long.
No.
Facebook, not much longer. Like YouTube, you expect something longer, and so you got to keep in mind where you're posting it. And there might be other places that you use to engage people. You know, you can do it as well.
Yep.
That was number 4, Bible characters or some sort of Christian topic. Number 5, this is not video related. This is what we call our bottom line graphic. So this is a picture, and you can do this various different ways. But basically, we take a picture, we post the bottom line. If you can see this on our Facebook and our Instagram, just New City RDU. It's the same thing on any platform if you want to see how we do it. And it's just the bottom line with a couple of keywords bolded. It has like our logo for the sermon series, and it's me or whoever was preaching. We used to in the past, we would take pictures ahead at like 4 or 5 at a time. Like during the week, I would just bring a couple shirts and Brian would take a few pictures. And then we would just put the thing over it. And it's okay if the bottom line picture is not what you actually wore on Sunday. Nobody remembers. Nobody cares. Now I guess Brian's just been taking a still image from the sermon recording.
So our camera is good enough to where like the recording is good enough quality to where I can just take a still from it and go with that. If you're not recording, obviously you can't do that. But if you're recording and it's pretty bad quality or you have to be really zoomed out, then it probably isn't going to be the best. And if that's the case, like you can just do this with your phone as long as you just have to have a second person to help you with it. Just take a day a week or a day every couple, or not a day a week, sorry, like a day a month, and bring in like 4 different shirts and have them just take pictures of you. Like it sounds so stupid to say, but we literally like Dylan would get up there with the headset, behind the podium and stuff, and just like hold the Bible and just talk about nonsense. And I just get a couple pictures. And that's it. And I just kind of throw those in a folder and use those. And I've used the same picture multiple times. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but just like I'll just use them. We'll get through that batch. We'll take some more, and then like 4 batches later, I'll just go back to the to the earlier ones and just make sure whether he had a beard or not that matches, and that's it. But it's really easy to do, and it's something that we make. Like we are not graphic designers at all. We have someone that helps with the heavier graphic design, but not the weekly stuff. And so this is something that if you've ever used Canva, I just make them in Canva. And for all these, like if you ever look at a YouTube channel, this is something we hashed on another episode, but our thumbnails are 234. Our thumbnails are pretty good now. They were not always. Legit. And like, if you are looking at them and want to replicate them, shoot us an email and I can share it with you on Canva and you just change the colors to your church colors. Like we will do all the work. We've done all the work and I'll share any of this. The bottom line, if you go into our Facebook page and you like the way it looks, I'll share it with you. And all it is a picture of whoever's preaching, a little like gradient color over it that kind of like fades from transparent, so no color, to the kind of color of our sermon series, and the graph or the bottom line over that kind of color. So it stands out from the picture a little bit. Now
I want to say too, for the longest time we didn't do this because I felt weird like having my picture every week.
Yes.
So I get if you're like, I don't want to do that. I eventually was like, whatever. It's not about me or the preacher. It's just that pictures of people get a lot more engagement. And you have to remember, if you post things that don't get engagement, Facebook and Instagram will suppress your stuff even more because they think people don't care about it and they want people to stay on their services. So this is just a way to do engagement, and that's what we do that way. And I would even say too, the thumbnails, again, this stuff, it looks really good for a church our size. I would say this: if you look at our subscriber count and you look at our homepage of our YouTube, you would not expect to see what you see on a Sunday morning here.
Sure. Yep.
You would expect something bigger, which it doesn't matter. Like it's not about the numbers, but we just do it really well. Now Brian has gotten better. We've tweaked. Like the thumbnails.
They have been bad in the past.
But we started, 5 months ago, and now we have something that like it all matches. It looks legit. This is why I get a little bit frustrated, especially with larger churches or just anyone that doesn't care, because like we didn't start this way. In 6 months, our channel looks great for a church our size. It looks awesome, and it was just consistency over time, and you can do it.
And here's why there's like no excuse for doing this, because I use Canva because it's super easy and it doesn't take much work. And you can do it's free. Canva's free. It can be free depending on what level you use or whatever, but you can get it for free. And they have templates. And so what I did is I went YouTube thumbnail, that's the size, looked at their templates, found ones that kind of could translate to what we wanted, maybe modified it a little bit, like move things around a little bit, and then just saved it. And so every week I just drop the new picture in from that Sunday or from whatever we're doing, like a picture of Dylan or whoever's speaking, change the text, and that's it. Like it's no work anymore. And the original work was finding a template that I liked. And you know what? Nobody like in the church uses Canva. Nobody cares that it's a template or something. Nobody cares if we create it from scratch. And that's what they're there for. So like this is not none of this is you got to have someone who's really good at this. None of this is stuff you can't learn on your own because there's literally nothing to learn. It's find something that you like and then just like copy it.
Yep.
And if you want, and honestly, like if you want to just copy ours, you can send us an email and you can literally share it. I'll just share it and all the work is done for you. Change the teal to your church's color and then you're done. Like it's just super easy.
What Brian does, he just takes a still shot of the camera and puts it over.
Yep. I just scrub along in whatever video we did until I can find the person not making a weird face and then screenshot and add that. Like that's it.
And if it seems complicated to you, how we started out was just, we didn't have a fancy background on the thumbnail. It was just me or whoever it was with just text.
Yep.
Of like a couple words on the thumbnail. So anyway, that was YouTube. Bottom line graphic. Again, you already have the content. You already know a main point. Now, sometimes for this is true for the sermon clip and the bottom line graphic. Sometimes like the main last point is weird without context or can communicate something you don't want to communicate. So we'll pick something different. We did that a couple weeks ago. Like the last point just would be weird if you don't know the context. So we just picked a different point from the sermon. Mm-hmm. And you can do the same thing for the sermon clip. If your last point you require some context from the whole sermon that if you didn't get it, people would be like, what are you trying to say? You could just pick something else from the sermon. It doesn't matter. It's just getting content in front of your people.
Yep.
So that's number 5, bottom line graphic. And number 6, this has been a lot of information and you might feel overwhelmed. Our point, just pick one of them and then come back when you feel like you've mastered it. Don't do all 6. But this one is actually, this is honestly the easiest one. So easiest for last. Mm-hmm. A Facebook question as a text post. And so this is only Facebook itself, but a way to, we talk a lot about, you don't just want to spam people, watch this sermon and come to this event. In fact, we don't really promote hardly any of our events on social media that much anymore. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'll just go on Facebook and I do this at least once a week. And it's just nothing to do with Christianity at all, just like people's opinions and they comment. So, like this past Friday, it was after Thanksgiving. So I just on Facebook, it was like, rate your Thanksgiving leftovers from 1 to 10 or something like that. People put their numbers on there. Or, should pineapple be a topping on pizza?
Yep.
And all I do is I go into the Facebook scheduler and I don't just do like the normal text. You can also do, you probably all seen this where like it's a text with a color background like green or red or purple because that stands out a little bit more in people's feeds, so it makes them stop. So you make sure you do one of those big color backgrounds and just ask people questions. What did you want to be when you were a kid? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Whatever. What's your favorite soda?
Yep.
What's your favorite TV show? What TV show should you bring back or something like that? And we do one of those a week as well. It's just fun. People comment. A lot of times you get a lot of the same people commenting, but people like it. Again, if they comment on something, Facebook will continue to show you their stuff to you. Mm-hmm. And it's a way of just creating community and fun online. And so I just call it a Facebook question as a text post. Do those one a week, just fun because people like to share their opinions.
So this question can't plug a different podcast, so we have nothing to do with it whatsoever. On I can't remember what they call it now. The Pro Church Tools podcast, Brady Shear's podcast.
I didn't get this from them. I haven't heard this. So.
No, I know. I'm saying
they
like
probably got it from
the
us.
idea. Yeah, someone asked something about this, and they've changed the name of their podcast a few times. I can't remember what it's called now, but you'll find it if you just search that. But a few weeks ago, that someone asked the question saying like, we do posts like this. Some of them perform, some of them don't. Why? And there's a few things they kind of give like how to make these question posts actually work. And I forget, they call them something like irresistible questions or impossible to resist questions. I forget what they call it. But basically, it's like it needs to be a question that applies to pretty much everybody. It's like it's not just like only a specific age range or only if you've had this specific experience, but something that anyone can answer. And it's something that doesn't take much thought. It's like, do you like pineapple on pizza? No. Yes. Yeah. You don't have to sit there and think about it.
It needs to be like a quick answer.
Yeah, quick answer.
A long. Yeah.
And like it's and like the pineapple on pizza one, you'll get the most engagement if it's something that can be a little bit controversial.
Yes.
Like something that people argue over.
I think true or false questions, not like objectively true or false, but like your opinion true or false.
Yep.
Those are great.
Opinion questions are great. And so, and it has to be something that isn't going to take much thought because no one's going to sit there and weigh the options and actually think through in their head. It's just gut reaction and something that anyone can respond to. And like in controversial in a way that they're not going to be afraid to share their opinions. So not like literally controversial.
Who did you vote for?
Yeah, right. But it's like, which one of these things is best? Or what, like we did one last week, it was an image, but it's the same idea of like which, what Thanksgiving food, if you had to pick one of each or something along those lines. Yeah. But it's the same kind of idea and people will argue about it. And then like you'll see them on Sunday. And if it's really good, they'll argue about it on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the kind of thing where it's a super easy thing to do. And it's just, I don't know, Google, I almost said Google controversial questions, but that probably won't get you what you wanted. But like just any question that you can get people to kind of give their opinion on in like a 1 or 2 word thing.
Yep.
people will engage with those so much more than they'll engage with your sermon.
Again, it's a little bit harder on Facebook because you got to like scroll through it, but you can look at ours. It'll take you a little bit while because you got to get through all the content.
Mm-hmm.
But we're New City RD on Facebook, all the same, which we would say other episodes, all your stuff should be the same.
Yeah.
But another way to do this is just icebreaker questions.
Yeah.
Like just Google
Yeah,
icebreaker
that kind of
questions.
thing.
Again, ones that are like easily answered, not like, if you had $1 million, what would you do with it? That's not,
Exactly,
that's too
yeah.
much. But those are great thing, and just get a bank of them, and then once a week, schedule it, something fun.
Super easy. And you'll get people like, people who don't go to your church will post or comment on it. And when someone comments on something, then other people might get notified on it, and it'll definitely create a lot more engagement.
Honestly, it's great. I have a relative that comments on them a lot. She's older and not a Christian. And I think it's cool, subconscious or not. She's not a fan of the church, but she sees a church that likes to have fun. She doesn't know these people, but yet she comments all the time every week. She comments on them.
Yep.
I think literally almost every week. And it's like that is a positive thing for her to see. Like, we're not, whatever she might think about Christians or church, like, we're not stuck up. We're not arrogant. We're just normal people. We have opinions and it's fun. I think that's just a great thing for your community, because you will get people that don't. I mean, some of you listening to this, comment on New City Church's stuff. Because you comment on it. So do it.
Yeah.
Take what we did and then just copy it and use it next week. We don't care.
And there's definitely multiple times of these types of things where I've had friends comment on them that I was like, I had no idea you followed the church.
Yeah.
Like, that don't go to the church. Some that don't even live in the state. Some that I don't even know if are believers. They'll comment on something before I do, and I'll be like, I didn't even know that you knew which church I went to. I didn't even know that you engaged with this whatsoever. And it's cool to see people engage with something, even if it's totally unspiritual.
Yep.
And it helps people engage with it. Helps people bring people to your, or recognize your church online, and helps bring you people in.
Yep. So that is 6 tips. I was waiting for you to say something else.
No. Is there something I was supposed to say?
It sounded like you had one more word to say, and then you just stopped. You didn't.
Fill in that silence.
There you go. 6 tips for online
6 long
content
tips.
that can expand your reach. That was a lot. Do not do all 6, but we would say start with somewhere, and you should do some of these.
Yeah.
Don't be like, I'll get to it. You're just, the whole thing in May is we've been around for a while. In May, we finally we've been doing videos. So again, that's part of what can help us grow, because we've done a lot in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But if we had done this a year ago, who knows where we would be now?
Yep.
And so that's one of my biggest regrets, is why did we not think of this?
And this is all this is not meant to be a look how good we're doing, anything like that. But we've talked before how we have maybe a little bit of a larger staff than you typically would for our church size.
Yeah.
All this is done by me and Dylan.
Yeah.
So all it is done by 2 people, and that's not to say we can get so much done, but it's just we wouldn't do it if it took an enormous amount of time. We're not big on doing things that are just time wasters, and so these things can absolutely be done by 1 to 2 people, and just figure out what works best in your schedule, or what works best kind of in your context, and start somewhere.
Yep. So 6 tips. Again, you can connect with us at practicalplanning.com. We got a lot of free resources on Facebook, Practical Planning Church Plant Group, Practical Church Planning Group. Mm-hmm. And next week is our final episode of 2021. Mm. We take the last 2 weeks off of the year because people don't listen to as many podcasts. Yep. And so why waste episodes?
That's right.
But we are bringing our last episode is going to be a recap of one of our most downloaded episodes this year and all time, which was surprising to me.
Yeah.
Which was episode number 1 of 2021, which was, I think, 7 church predictions for 2021.
Yeah.
I don't remember the number what is. Our last episode of the year, we are going to reflect.
I don't even remember what our predictions
how
were.
We did.
Yeah, let's see.
And if we were right and if we were wrong. And then, of course, our first episode of 2022, we're bringing them back.
Church predictions.
So be with us next Wednesday.
Yep.
We'll do our 2021 goal prediction recap. If you like this podcast or this episode, we'd love for you to share it with your friends, family, other people in ministry. And we'll see you next week on Practical Church Planting.